I was tending to my horses when I noticed her once more. There she stood, squarely in the center of my corral, expensive sunglasses resting on her nose, clipboard clutched tightly, gesturing at my fence posts as if the land belonged to her. Karen Whitmore, self-proclaimed president of the Willowbrook HOA, had finally escalated from persistent nuisance to outright trespasser. "You must remove these weeds at once," she declared in that piercing tone that could set dogs barking across multiple counties. "And this fence is utterly unacceptable. The paint is peeling, and it's dragging down our property values." I drew in a slow breath, reminding myself that losing my temper and facing charges wouldn't solve anything. "Karen, for the 100th time, this is my land. You're trespassing. The HOA has zero jurisdiction here. Now leave my corral before you upset the horses." Her cheeks flushed to the shade of a ripe tomato. "Don't you dare threaten me, Luke Morrison. I know my rights." With a theatrical flourish, as though drawing a gun, she yanked out her phone. "I'm calling 911 this instant. This man is menacing me with violence." I stood there stunned as she fabricated a wild story into the receiver, claiming I'd pursued her with heavy machinery and issued brutal threats. Before long, sirens wailed along the gravel road. 2 squad cars screeched to a halt, and deputies leaped out with hands hovering near their holsters. "Sir, step back from the woman and keep your hands visible," the lead officer ordered. That was my introduction to Deputy Rodriguez, and my lesson that the most vicious threats sometimes arrive in pearls, armed with clipboards rather than fangs and talons. "My name is Luke Morrison, and I've run the Double M Ranch for 15 years. I once competed on the professional rodeo circuit until a bull called Tornado rearranged my backbone in ways no surgeon appreciated. Nowadays, I breed quarter horses and prefer solitude on my 40 acres just beyond the Willowbrook development. It's prime country, tranquil, with gentle hills and a reliable stream." Or it had been Keat until builders slapped that uniform subdivision right along my eastern boundary. For 3 years straight, I've endured Karen Whitmore. She settled into one of those oversized houses and promptly maneuvered herself into the HOA presidency by vowing to spruce up the area. Evidently, that mission extended to my ranch. Even though it lies entirely outside their reach. It didn't faze Karen. She began with polite recommendations about repainting my barn in softer tones, then graduated to formal-looking notices on HOA stationery insisting I hide my weathered horse trailer from sight. I attempted courtesy. I tried disregarding her. I even showed up at one of their meetings to clarify that the rules held no more sway over my place than a paper plane in a storm. Karen merely offered that thin, pinched smile and promised to investigate. The pressure only intensified afterward. Unsigned complaints began appearing in my mailbox, griping about everything from my roosters crowing to the supposed stench of manure. Next arrived bogus reports to the county alleging violations. The inspector grew so weary of pointless visits that he suggested I file a formal harassment claim. I wish I'd heeded him. One dawn, I discovered a landscaping team assaulting my boundary hedge with loud equipment. Karen oversaw the operation, claiming she was generously boosting my curb appeal. It required the sheriff's intervention to remove them. Even then, she behaved as though I were the irrational party. That incident prompted me to install cameras, 8 in total, positioned for complete coverage along the property line. High-resolution night cable, motion triggered, the full setup. It proved the wisest purchase I ever made, because the footage I captured next dwarfed every prior annoyance. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon when my phone began buzzing with motion notifications. I opened the live view and stared in disbelief. There was Karen, brazen as ever, strolling across my land with her ever-present clipboard. She'd progressed beyond mere fence peering. She was photographing my barn, my machinery, even the horses themselves. She spent a full 20 minutes cataloging every tractor, every haystack, every drinking trough. I backed up the entire recording to several drives. I did the same the following day when she returned, and again the day after. By week's end, I possessed enough damning video to paper the walls of her oversized home. Still, I aimed to resolve it properly, through official means. I drafted a cease and desist letter, and planned to hand-deliver it with a witness present. My neighbor Tom volunteered. He'd suffered Karen's meddling too, when she fined him over an improper mailbox color. We located her in my north pasture, actually inside the fenced area this time, snapping pictures of my compost heap. Karen, this has to end, I stated, keeping my tone steady. Tom held his phone up, capturing the exchange. You're on private property without permission. I have footage of you multiple times this week. Here's the cease and desist. Come onto my land again, and I'll file charges. That's when she completely unraveled. Her complexion shifted from crimson to deep purple, and she shrieked loudly enough to send horses galloping in the adjacent field. How dare you threaten me? I'm fully entitled to record these infractions. You're running an unlawful business in a residential zone. I'll sue you for all you're worth. I'll get this ranch shut down. She charged toward her vehicle, still hurling promises of attorneys and legal action. Tom and I watched her depart, exchanging weary glances. That woman's madder than a wet hen, Tom grumbled. We had no clue just how unhinged she was about to demonstrate. 20 minutes later, I was brewing coffee in the kitchen when sirens pierced the air. I assumed a crash on the highway until I spotted patrol cars veering into my driveway. 2 vehicles, lights blazing, deputies advancing cautiously with hands near their sidearms. My stomach dropped. Sir, step outside slowly with your hands in view, Deputy Rodriguez shouted. We've received a call claiming you menaced a woman with a shovel and pursued her from the property. I couldn't suppress a bitter chuckle, likely not the wisest reaction. Deputy, I don't even own a shovel. I handle everything with the tractor, and security cameras cover every square foot here. Care to watch the actual events? Multiple viewpoints, clear video, full audio. My neighbor Tom was present as a witness too. The officers shared a quick look. You've got recordings of the encounter? Several angles. Crystal clear with sound. He lives just over that ridge. And I have recordings from earlier this week documenting that same woman trespassing over and over. Deputy Rodriguez eased his stance a bit. Let's see that footage. I ushered them into the house and loaded the videos on my laptop. We viewed Karen's multiple intrusions, her meticulous photographic survey of my land, and then the full confrontation from that afternoon. The sound was sharp and unmistakable, capturing every syllable of her vows to sue me and get my ranch condemned. At no moment did I hold any implement, much less pursue her with one. The deputy's faces shifted from doubt to astonishment, outright fury as the clips played. She claimed you were aggressive and unhinged, Deputy Rodriguez said, rubbing his temple. Told us you'd warned you'd harm her if she ever returned. This is nothing like her story. Informed her I'd file trespassing charges, I replied. That's a far cry from threatening harm. And as you saw, she'd been trespassing repeatedly. Rodriguez flipped open his notebook. We'll require copies of every video, plus a formal statement from your witness. Submitting a false report to police is no minor offense. Neither is trespassing, the second deputy agreed. We'll be paying Mrs. Whitmore a visit to discuss the penalties for misleading officers. News spreads quickly in tight-knit areas. By dawn the next day, the entire Willowbrook subdivision knew their HOA president had been exposed for making a bogus emergency call. The camera evidence had transformed from legal proof to local legend as residents passed around tales of Karen's epic outburst. But anyone assuming that humiliation would force her to retreat clearly underestimated Karen Whitmore. Rather than offer remorse or withdraw, she escalated with the stubbornness of someone refusing to fold a losing hand. She summoned an emergency HOA gathering for that Saturday, distributing flyers alleging critical safety issues and demanding urgent action. Tom tipped me off after receiving his invitation and phoning right away. She's completely unhinged now, he warned. The agenda mentions enacting new sight line rules that would supposedly apply to bordering lands. She's hunting for any loophole to compel you to follow HOA guidelines. I thanked him and started making inquiries myself. It turned out several Willowbrook homeowners had grown thoroughly exasperated with Karen's tyranny. They'd been waiting for a solid reason to confront her, and her fresh legal troubles provided the ideal opening. Saturday came, and the community center overflowed with attendees. I took a seat near the rear alongside Tom and a handful of supportive residents. Karen gripped the microphone stand, appearing worn yet unyielding, her typically flawless hair a touch disheveled. She plunged into a tirade about safeguarding home values and the necessity of aesthetic uniformity across the broader vicinity. "We must broaden our authority to safeguard our investments," she proclaimed, her pitch climbing to that grating register that set teeth on edge. "Adjacent properties impact our image. We bear a duty to guarantee they adhere to acceptable criteria." That's when Margaret Chen rose. Margaret, a retired lawyer who'd relocated to Willowbrook seeking serenity, had repeatedly clashed with Karen's excesses. "Point of order, Madam President. You're presently facing investigation for criminal trespass and submitting a fabricated police report. Is it appropriate for you to chair this assembly?" The room exploded. Folks who'd stayed silent for years suddenly spoke freely. Accounts spilled forth of Karen's intimidation tactics, her capricious penalties, her power abuses. One person referenced the crew she dispatched to butcher my hedge. Another recalled her attempt to penalize a homeowner for planting the incorrect variety of blooms. "I move for a no-confidence vote against our current president," Margaret declared amid the uproar. "Those in favor?" The reaction was thunderous. Almost every arm in the hall rose. Karen's complexion drained from flush to ashen as she grasped that her grip had slipped. Yet the assembly wasn't finished. I further moved that the HOA pursue a protective order against Karen Whitmore for the benefit of neighbor Luke Morrison. Margaret pressed on. "Her conduct has tarnished our subdivision and risked legal exposure for us all." The tally was again nearly universal. Karen remained rooted at the lectern, her lips parting and closing soundlessly like a stranded fish. Another attendee proposed, scrutinizing the HOA's books, wary of where those random fines had vanished. That measure carried as well. The decisive strike arrived when Richard Stevens, the association's treasurer, rose clutching the bylaws. Per Section 12, Subsection 3, any officer involved in criminal conduct that discredits the association faces automatic expulsion and penalties up to $5,000. I moved to apply this provision to Karen Whitmore based on her proven trespassing and false reporting. The decision was rapid and resounding. In under 60 minutes, Karen had tumbled from HOA ruler to outcast, slapped with a $5,000 levy from the very group she'd wielded like a club. As the session wrapped and attendees streamed out, Karen clung to the podium as if it might save her. Her meticulously ordered realm of regulations and dominance had collapsed entirely. The final words I caught while departing were Margaret Chen, advising her that she had 30 days to settle the penalty or confront litigation from the HOA's council. The next week, I added a sturdy new gate custom-built with a keypad lock and speaker system, but the highlight was the sign in crisp, authoritative script: "Private property, no trespassing, no cars permitted." The criminal proceedings dragged through the courts for months, though Deputy Rodriguez provided regular updates. Karen was eventually found guilty of filing a false police report and criminal trespass. The judge, evidently familiar with such personalities, ordered 200 hours of community service, a year of probation, and a $3,000 fine. Her real estate license, which I hadn't realized she held, was revoked for half a year, wiping out substantial earnings. The expression on her face as the verdict was delivered is etched in my memory: utter disbelief, as though she couldn't fathom that her behavior carried real repercussions. She'd grown so accustomed to brandishing the HOA as her shield that she'd overlooked how the wider world possessed far stronger enforcement.